Nicolas Cage is probably one of our generation's definitive actors.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope everyone's doing well in the world right now.
Good evening, everybody. Matt Guy here. Hope everybody's splendidly.
Splendid.
Splendidly, Stu. It's a new thing I'm trying.
I'll try new things once in a while. Hello, everyone.
Right, we're here to discuss probably the most memed of all of Cage's films. Like, this is it's definitely the most GIFs of anything. I mean, we get the odd GIF of Con Air, but when you watch Vampire's Kiss, I can think of at least 4 different images from this film, which you will see regularly on the Twitter. Obviously, it's a film from 1988. We've not watched a lot of films from this period of time, but it sits in between Raising Arizona in 87 and Wild at Heart from 1990. So where did you think we were going to be with this movie? What were your expectations going in, Matt?
The meme thing, you can get a good meme out of anything. It doesn't necessarily dictate what it's going to be like quality-wise. But I didn't watch a trailer because I wanted to stew it up on this one. I didn't want to get any preconceptions, but I did read the kind of the synopsis on it, and I thought to myself, okay, actually, this from a plot point of view, this sounds like it could be really fun. This sounds like it has the opportunity to be something a little out of the ordinary. And fuck me, did I get that with an extra size? I got that supersized.
Stu, what were you thinking going in?
Well, I didn't do anything. I looked for it, couldn't find it anywhere, so I had to be naughty. And that was it. I didn't look up at anything. It didn't look at Score Up. I didn't look at who was in it. I just downloaded it and put it on. And I think in Vampire's Kiss, you kind of expect certain things. So it was it was different. Let's just say that. But you're right, Matt, when you said you can make a meme, a GIF out of anything. I mean, probably the most used GIF of the last 2 years has been the one of Andy in the grain store. Shaking his head to Tragedy by Steps. Which is that on Twitter now? Is it?
I think I have tweeted it out, and I made the mistake of sending it to our friend Ash Dolan, who now keeps sending it back at me. So I definitely shouldn't have done that. So the director on this film is Robert Bierman, not a name I'm aware of. This was his first cinematic release, followed a decade later by A Merry War, which is a Richard E. Grant and Helena Bonham Carter, George Orwell adaptation. The rest of his handful of directorial credits are British TV staples: The Bill, Casualty, Waking the Dead even, and the Inspector Linley mysteries. So this film sticks out like a sore thumb in his... he's a very British director by the looks of things. So I don't know how he got involved in this madness. Bit of an odd one. So IMDb describes this film as: after an encounter with a neckbiter, a publishing executive thinks that he's turning into a vampire. It's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? That doesn't even touch the size of what is going on with this film. Right, okay.
How was your weekend?
It's all right, It's nothing earth-shattering.
He was an ordinary guy.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Looking for an extraordinary love.
I'm Peter Lev.
Rachel.
I brought this girl up to my place the other night.
It started with a kiss.
Really hot.
A very special kiss.
You wanted her very badly.
Yeah.
A kiss that could drive you mad.
I hate interrupted love affairs, don't you?
Yep.
It's affecting his work.
There you are! It's a horrible, horrible job. And you have to do it.
It's ruining his appetite.
My next appointment with you is Tuesday afternoon.
I'd like to make it sooner.
It's spoiling his sleep.
Sooner.
And don't think people haven't noticed.
Am I getting through to you? Over!
He is so eccentric.
My.
For Peter Lowe,
Sooner.
that's just love
Love? Love.
in the big city.
Don't laugh.
I'm a professional. I don't lie.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Nicolas Cage,
The tortures of the damned!
Maria Conchita Alonso,
Shit. Do it or I'll fire you. Do you understand? Not the floor, Alba.
and Jennifer Beals.
You are so pathetic.
Vampire's Kiss.
Strange stuff. I'll never do that again. Jeez.
It's the 80s. Greed is good, narcissistic office workers and yuppies as far as the eye can see. Peter Lowe is a literary agent during the day and a party animal at night, in the pursuit of the holy trinity of the 80s, fun, funds and one-night stands. This opens with Peter at his therapist's. What the fuck is that accent?
No.
So apparently, Cage did this accent because this is how he thought bookish people spoke.
Yeah.
I still don't know what the accent is because it's kind of British.
I thought he was doing some kind of faux British. If Bram Stoker's Dracula hadn't have been released by already at this point, I'd have been convinced he'd have got it from that. It's bizarre,
It's so
isn't it? The
weird.
accent. I mean, we know from Captain Corelli's Mandolin that I don't think geographically he knows where countries are and what accents they should be. I don't know what it's meant to be.
But he's in New York. That's
Yeah,
the
I know.
accent he should be doing. Yeah, it's just weird. Like I can't even describe it because it is so off the wall. Like you can't pin it, and like as the film goes on, obviously he devolves into a mental health episode. But we believe at the beginning he's not a nut job or anything. He's a dude who's very successful at his job. So I don't know why he chose this. Like it's a swing and a miss.
He sounds like the clever gremlin.
Yeah.
That's the accent he's got.
Well, that's probably where they got it from in Gremlins 2, then, isn't it? Right. That night he goes to a club and meets Jackie, takes her home, and whilst they're fooling around, a bat flies in through the window. I would absolutely shit a brick if that happened to me. Like, I've had birds fly into the house before, but never a bat. That would be... I don't mind bats, but that would be too much for me.
I struggled with bats. No. I mean, it was worse when I had hair, of course. But walking through that bat part in Dudley Zoo I don't like it.
I like the one at Chester's awesome. They've got the whole bat cave thing. It's incredible.
Yeah, it was close, and I went a few weeks ago because of like avian flu and stuff like that. So I had to make do with a butterfly house,
No.
which wasn't as
Andy's favourite.
I've done the butterfly house and I scared the shit out of it. I hate butterflies. Fucking flapping cunts. Just horrible. I don't like butterflies or moths. They can both fuck off. Horrible. Horrible things.
Goth butterflies.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. They're all bastards. I've lost my place. Right.
So this is why we went through a whole thing of the Fancast group being called Moth Appreciation or something, was it?
Yeah.
When I said that they were made of dust, which they are. What other animal, when you touch it, collapses like moths do?
Butterflies.
It doesn't make any sense. No, butterflies don't. If you kill a butterfly, You should feel pain inside. But the little wings kind of like, but they fall down like Tinkerbell, but not. This doesn't happen to moths. Moths just fall like it's like when you play games when they ain't got enough RAM and they just the enemies just disappear into thin air. That's what moths are like. It's just dust, flying dust.
Okay.
I have something to ask about one of the opening scenes with the therapist.
Is it the next one where he tells her that he got a hard on whilst he was fighting the bat?
No. Strange as that is.
Okay. Right.
Were clothes that big in the 80s? I don't mean big as in fashion-wise. Were clothes that massive on people? Was there no such thing as tailoring in the 80s?
It was all about the shoulder pads and oversized things.
Like the lapels on the psychiatrist's jacket. I literally think there's more fabric on that than I have on most of my t-shirts. It's literally the clothes are just huge. It looks ridiculous. Like everyone's wearing clown clothes.
Go back through your old family photo albums, and you guarantee you'll see stuff like this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm fascinated by the therapist in this. I want a film of her. Like, we just get snippets of her being like a bit of a cunt to Cage. And like he's trying to express his emotions of like I said, he got aroused when fighting this bat, and she was like, "Yeah, but you were like about to fuck anyway. So what are you talking about?" And then like right towards the end of the film, we see her with a guy who is clearly about 30 years younger than she is. I'm like, what's going on here? That's come out of nowhere. So I just want to know all about her and not the rest of the film that we got, unfortunately. Another night, another bar. Lo meets Rachel this time, taking her home. Whilst they're about to get down to Bone Town, she pins him down and exposes her fangs and bites Lo on the neck. While shaving, Lo then cuts his neck and puts a plaster over it, believing this to now be his fang bites. Then he prepares a coffee and chats to Rachel in bed. The camera pans out. She's not there. Was it a dream or is Lo insane? The girl from the day before, Jackie, is now on a date with Lo. He abandons her. He just fucks off into a taxi and does one without any explanation whatsoever. Jackie calls and leaves an abusive message on Lo's answering machine telling him to fuck off. We get flashes of Cage's insane brilliance as he chews out his lung-suffering assistant, Alva, who cannot find a copy of a missing contract. This is the first of the famous GIFs. The Cage leaning forward with a cigarette in his mouth and pointing. I wanted it a bit more impactful because we've seen this GIF so many times. And it felt very throwaway, I thought that did. But the absolute fucking horrendous attitude he shows towards Alva, it's kind of hilarious, but awful at the same time in this movie.
It is. I think it's highlighted. It's not the most shouty, the most screamy or anything, but he goes, I'm going to make a massive song and dance now when I call him about not getting this contract. And you then hear the conversation with the bloke he's calling, and he's like, yeah, take your time, man. Don't fucking worry about it. Then he goes back, I never got a chance to get a word in edgeways because he was fucking ripping my head off, blah, blah, blah. Just absolutely abusing this woman. It was something when like as we find out a little later on, it gets sinister quick with her. But the berating of her was at first very, very funny in a mean way.
A day later, Lo calls Jackie to explain why he left her on their date and persuades her to meet him that night to explain why he left her. Completely apropos of nothing, when Lo leaves his apartment block, he passes by two mimes who are miming domestic abuse. There's no crowd watching them or anything. I don't know why they put that scene in. It makes no sense. Like, weird, just baffling. And it doesn't come back in any point through the film. I don't get it. Really odd. Right, that's a quarter of the way through this film at this point. What are you thinking so far, Stu?
Well, as I said earlier, I didn't know what this was. So thinking about Vampire's Kiss, thinking, okay, how it started, it's going to be like a bit of like a vampire rom-com. So as soon as he went back in with the coffee, and she wasn't there, I thought, it's all in his head, then this is not happening. And from then on, and then seeing the mimes, and I thought, this is a farce. But already, it was another one of these when I was giggling to myself, and I said that we were watching Primal, but this one, the scenes that we'll come to in a bit, that I had tears in my eyes. I was laughing that much. But the poor Alva, I didn't recognise that first one. That first one it was later on when I saw it, just weirdly for the first time ever. The one with the finger. I didn't recognise that at all. So I was sitting, thinking, hang on, what has she done wrong? And then that whole thing of talking about the clothes of the 80s. The office of the 80s as well, with the wood panels down either side of the corridor. It's like prime Lethal Weapon. And I was bemused more than anything else. I think the mime thing was just like that film that we always constantly forget. The Spike Lee film from the 80s that's based in New York as well. That I can't remember. Considering how good it is as well.
Do the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So how that was like a snapshot of that part of New York. I think that this mime thing was just a case of New York is a fucking odd place. I thought that's what I got from it. That there's these people around, and you got these districts and things, and you got him going out at night, and you got them people there. You got the office people there, and then you just got random street performers doing nothing in front of no one. That's what I took from that.
Matt, how are you feeling like half an hour-ish into this film?
I didn't sign up for the prequel to Wild at Heart. Basically. And I had to check it wasn't a David Lynch film, because I was like, oh no, here we go again. Like, I just... There's weird for weirdness sake. I understand that. But no, I really, really wasn't enjoying this film. Even a quarter of the way through, I was like, God, this is fucking awful. Like, not so bad it's good either. Like, really just not enjoying it. I couldn't work out what was going on, and not because it's a confusing film or it's too clever for me. It was all over the place. So, quarter of the way through, I was like, I get people want to challenge themselves artistically, but you don't have to challenge yourself autistically at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It just wasn't for me. Wasn't for me at all. The first quarter, at least.
That night, Lo is visited by Rachel, who once again drains the blood from his neck. This becomes a regular occurrence throughout the film. Lo never makes it to meet Jackie, who leaves a message for Lo on his apartment entrance, telling him to stay out of her life. The second memeable moment happens when Crazy Cage is sat at work in his sunglasses, as he has started to believe he is becoming a vampire now. Once again, he lays into his secretary. He tells her how worthless she is and that he will pound her into the ground if she doesn't find this missing contract. We see Cage eat a live cockroach. His delusions are getting worse. He actually ate a live cockroach. He actually did that. The absolute fucking maniac. At work, Alva is phoned in sick, so Lo goes to visit her and he tricks her into returning to work, acting all nice before losing his shit at her, chasing her and hitting her, grabbing and tearing at her clothes. She blacks out. Lo picks up a gun which Alva was carrying, puts it in his mouth before pulling the trigger. He didn't realise that Alva was only carrying blanks, so Lo took this to believe that he was now an immortal vampire when he didn't die. Running through the street screaming, I'm a vampire, I'm a vampire, I'm a vampire. That's 2/3 of the way through the film now. Matt, are you still hating this film?
It's so strange because the second... We haven't quite got there yet. The second he puts the $3 false teeth in, it's become a different film. And I don't know how. Because I've gone from hating a film to the second he puts his teeth in, all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? This is hilarious. Like as soon as he really thinks he's become a vampire, so maybe around the time after the blanks, it goes from odd artistic whatever you want to just black comedy then at that point. But it comes to black comedy after the point that he sexually assaulted someone, and it's like you just don't know how to feel. And like if it's not bad enough, you just you see like clips of her suffering and crying in bed. So like it takes you out of black comedy and just puts you back into seeing the victim, and it's like you don't know what to think. And I don't think it's because he wants to challenge the viewer. I just think because he doesn't know what film he's making. Like,
yeah, there is some of that.
But when he puts his teeth in, it becomes just hilarious. Then at that point, like it's rare for me to be turned on to a film 2/3 of the way in. That's usually when it loses me. But then I started to enjoy myself at that point.
What I love in the scene with the $3 false teeth is that we know that Peter Lowe is a high-powered publisher. He's the boss of this company. He's a powerful man. He's clearly well off. And he can't afford $19 for a pair of the ceramic teeth, so he has to buy the cheap shit plastic ones for $3. I don't know why, but that really made me laugh that he just couldn't afford $20 for these fucking teeth. Stu, 2/3 in, what are you thinking?
I don't think I was thinking. I was just laughing. I don't even know if it was intentional laughter or not, but it just got ludicrous. It got more and more odd as it went along. And like when he went in, and I was thinking, because there was still in the back of my mind thinking, is this a piss take? Is it like a double bluff? Is he actually a vampire, but he can't grow his fangs yet? And it was still in the back of my mind thinking, am I going to get done here? Like when I don't realise things are happening. And so I was kind of second guessing myself at a stupid film.
I think I did a bit of that, to be fair, though. I think I expected more of it, and it didn't really give me that. But yeah. So yeah, now Lowe is convinced that he's a vampire. He's worried that his fangs haven't come in yet. So he goes to what looks like a Chinese medicine store to buy fangs. Like if you look in the background...
It's the same place where he buys Gizmo, the Mowgli.
It is, isn't it? I'm sure there's like newt tail and stuff in there for Chinese medicines. It's not like a joke store he goes to. It doesn't look weird. So yeah, he puts these fangs in, and Cage has been like borderline indecipherable throughout this film with that accent, and now he's put false teeth in that don't even fit properly. When she comes to, Alva believes that Lowe raped her. She informs her brother of this. Lowe now attends a club, and he attempts to seduce a woman who slaps him when he gets a bit too handsy. He overpowers her and bites her neck with his real, actual teeth, not the plastic fangs. This leaves her unconscious and bloodied on the streets. Lowe continues going out partying, as he does every night. He sees Rachel with another man. She barely recognises him. We realise that those nights that she visits to drink his blood aren't real. She just about remembers his name. Lowe tries to force her to reveal her fangs, which I thought was really funny when he just grabs her mouth and screams at her. He gets thrown out of the club. The morning after, stumbling through the streets, covered in blood around his mouth, Lowe hallucinates a session with his therapist. He tells her that he raped and murdered somebody. A nearby newspaper headline confirms that the woman he attacked and bit has died. Lowe returns to his apartment, lies on the ground and pulls the couch over him like he's entering a coffin. Alva's brother arrives, angry as he believes that Lowe has raped his sister, and plunges a wooden stake into Lowe. His final moments, Lowe envisions the vampire Rachel once more. She says, "Dream of me, my angel, dream of me." So the budget on this film was $2 million, and it raked in $725,000. If we adjust that for inflation, we're looking at like $5 million in today's money, and they got maybe 1.7. So they still well under their budget there. They've done nothing to get it back. It was released in the US in September 1988, and what a year that was. A few of the choice cuts from the top 20. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was the top grossing film with 156 million. We've got Coming to America, Big, Three Men and a Baby, Die Hard. Nicolas Cage had one of his first big hit films with Moonstruck, Fish Called Wonder, Willow, Rambo 3. One of my favourite Christmas films, Scrooge, was released. Twins. So, 1988 was a great fucking year for films, just not this one. So, before I give you the scores, I want you to tell me what you think they will be for IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. Stu?
I can't imagine either are going to be pretty high. 3 and 6. Be generous to the audience there.
Matt, what do you think?
I reckon this is so Marmite. I'm just going to go 50-50 for both, because critics-wise, you're going to get people that want to upset the apple cart or probably want to see things that aren't even there. The irony. And then for fans, this you're in because of the memes and that you're into cult film status as well.
Yeah.
So 50-50 for both, I think.
Yeah. IMDb was 6.0. The Metacritic was 31. The Rotten Tomatoes critical score was 61%. And the audience score was 53%. So you are right. It's very much... You're either a yes or you're a no on it. There doesn't seem to be any in between. Peter Travers from the Rolling Stone. What this movie needs isn't criticism. It's more like a stake through the heart. Karen James from New York Times. This film is dominated and destroyed by Mr. Cage's chaotic, self-indulgent performance. Jonathan Rosenbaum from Chicago Reader didn't agree. He said, what makes this film worth seeing is Cage's outrageously unbridled performance. Variety ultimately put the final nail in the coffin, though. Problem is that Cage's over-the-top performance generates little sympathy for the character, so it's tough to be interested in him as his personality disorder worsens. However, there were some people who liked it, and the Maniacs at Amazon.com gave this 4 out of 5 stars, with over half of the reviewers giving it a 5-star review. Nikki Pierce said, there are some sex scenes, but only what you'd expect from a 1980s film. Underwear stays on. There are a lot of expletives used that some viewers will find offensive, will in all capitals. Not me, I don't care. Except B's, C's and F's. You can also expect the whole alphabet at one point. Odysseus Timepiece, which is a hell of a name. An important lesson that dangerous men who abuse their power aren't necessarily menacing or calculating, but can be ridiculous and immature. I imagine the conversations Donald Trump had with himself are similar to those Nicolas Cage's character has in this movie. They're both misogynists with delusions of grandeur. The vast majority of the reviews were saying it was very much tongue-in-cheek, confirming its place in the pantheon of so bad it's good. So the good, the bad and the crazy. Stu, start us off.
I mean, the good is Cage's performance is brilliant. And I mean, that scene, the scene in the nightclub where he's got the teeth in and he's just walking through the crowd, and just the look on his face, it's just stupid. It's so stupid that's the part where I was crying, laughing. And it was almost like Freddie Got Fingered levels of tears. It was just silliness. But he does it's proper hamming it up to the absolute max. And there isn't much in it. And like the whole weird accent thing where you think, well, is he doing that? Is he doing it to try and please the people he works with and be more yuppie? Like we said earlier, we don't know. But it just kind of shows what a kind of lunatic he already was before he got bitten. So, yeah, I thought his performance was superb in such a strange way. Because it's a pretty terrible film. That's you go on to the bad. I mean, the rest of it is pretty awful. There isn't much to it really. But again, it's like a parody of itself in places where you never really know what's going to happen. And for films like this, that's rare. So, I mean, putting that in bad it's going to like change my own mind. You probably should go in the crazy where you can go from, like Matt said, you can go from hating it 15 minutes in to then loving it 20 minutes later. I can't think of a film that's been as odd as this, really, in how there's so many moving parts to a single whole. It's just weird.
Yeah, we've done nothing like this, have we? This is on its
I
own.
don't think I've ever seen anything like this in my life. I mean, when we said about Colour Out of Space before, where that was weird and you never really saw like the twists and turns coming, but that was in a kind of normal formulaic film way. This is just fucking insane from start to finish. It's just mental, but it's not mental in a kind of, like you said, like we were talking about with basketball last week. It's not mental in that way. It's just odd. And it's so odd in so many different ways. And I don't know anyone who's even heard of this film. I know people know the memes. I asked all the usual people who listen to this, oh yeah, we're going to do Vampire's Kiss. No one had heard of it. Not one person. In the 20 people I asked, not one person had even heard of it. So, neither had I. I had no idea. So that's why I went in as blind as I did.
Incredible, because I mean, it's got a bit of a reputation, almost like The Room. This is mentioned in the same voice that The Room is mentioned in, so I'm quite shocked at that one.
Yeah, and especially when we went to watch Disaster. What was it called?
The Disaster Artist.
Yeah, The Disaster. When we went to watch that, and we were talking about bad films at the time, I still can't remember it being mentioned there. And you can see why the overacting and the high mark that would fit in this film perfectly.
Absolutely, yeah.
But this is 20 years before that, and you think, is The Room now inspired by this? I think, it's all a bit. There's a bit of good, bad, and crazy in every single thing you even say about this. I don't think you can categorize any of it. I think it's just a comment on the general thing overall. I think it breaks the rules of this whole podcast.
Matt, what do you think?
I mean, it says something when my good is the fact that it was the talking heads in the nightclub scene at the end. That's literally. I'm sorry. Musically, it was all over the place. This film, like at the start, I was like, God, I hate the music from the 80s when it's all synth and all that kind of stuff. In this kind of like synth jazz. But then I'd put down, it's got the talking heads in the nightclub at the end, and they're not all goths, which I've mentioned before. Like when we talk about like weird nightclubs and stuff like that, it's always heavy metal and bondage. It's nice that it wasn't that for a change, which was a plus. The bad, if we're completely honest, it's very exploitative of mental health disorders.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about it is those parts were the absolute best thing about this film, as in from an entertainment point of view. When he's clearly having his episodes and the real bad episodes, they're the most entertaining parts, but it's an out and out exploitation of these disorders as opposed to an awareness exercise, sadly. The crazy is the first note that I wrote on my notes, which was, is it really good acting or really bad? It's literally my first notes. Like, I don't have the answer for you. Maybe it's just rhetorical. Like, I can't tell if this is a genius painting the roof of the Vatican, or is it a drunk with a box of crayons. Like, I don't know. I don't have the answer for you, and that's why it's crazy.
Yeah, I very similar to yourself. My crazy is I don't know what this film's about. Like, I've watched it at least 3 times now, and I still don't really understand it. And like, part of me went in because of it was set in the 80s. It's about slightly about yuppie culture and what have you. I don't know if it's because my mind is tainted by American Psycho, that I kind of expect it to be an exploration of greed and power and that sort of thing, and the relationship between men and women within a power structure. I expected that, and there's none of that in the slightest. So I don't know if it's just me giving this film more credit than it deserves, because it doesn't touch on anything. It is literally, as you say, an exploitation movie. That's all it is. And fuck, I feel dirty, but I actually enjoyed myself watching it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not awful. It is, but it is awful at the same time. It's not, but it is. It is a contradiction of a film, and I've really struggled to put my finger on what it is about this film that I hated and what I liked about it. Because, like Stu said, it's everything. I liked everything and hated everything about it. It is so weird. And like I said, there are some bits that really made me laugh. There's the stuff with the teeth in the Chinese shop. The therapist with her booty call that just rocks up out of nowhere and never gets explained. It just felt really out of place and weird. His death scene at the end, which was so overacted. The accent. It's such a bizarre film.
The coffin and the sofa. God, I howled with laughter at that.
Yeah.
It's when he hisses at him.
It's outstanding in its awfulness, and like, don't get me wrong, I probably won't watch it again for another 5 or 6 years, but I probably will watch it again at some point. It's not to the Room's level of so bad it's good, because that is the pinnacle of that sentiment. But I did enjoy myself watching it for all its faults. Which I suppose leads us on to the next question. Did you enjoy the film, Stu?
Absolutely. And I couldn't stop laughing. And I'll kind of come around to the fact that it was 100% intentional. Because you can't make something like this. And it be... that's the thing. Were there films like this before this, that were this ridiculous and this bad at the same time? Because before The Room, I didn't really think anything could touch that. And really, nothing can, because that's in its own exceptional world. But this is something else. And I enjoyed it way more than any sane, sensible person should enjoy a film like this. And I've recommended it to everyone. Because of that, I know we're skipping to the next part. I've recommended it to every single person I know because it's class in a terrible, terrible way.
Matt, did you enjoy the film?
I did, but my answer is no, because I enjoyed it like 2/3 of the way in for the last act, and that's not enough, unfortunately. I was at it warmed on me as it went on, but I can't, I can't say that I enjoyed it. Do you know what I mean? I enjoyed the end.
Yeah.
But I didn't enjoy the journey, so I can't say.
Sometimes that's enough. Like, just send them home happy, and you'll have enjoyed the experience, even though, like you say, the journey was terrible.
Yes.
And I don't know if I enjoyed it. Like, I did and I didn't. On the balance, I mean, I didn't hate the experience. The bad stuff was bad enough to make me laugh at it, and that's more than can be said for some of the films that we've watched.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose I did enjoy it. And if anyone ever asks for a film that's so bad it's good, if they want to do a bad film night, I would recommend this as the kind of film to watch for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's fine. It's fine for what it is, which is fucking terrible. So based on this film and this film alone, was Cage good or was Cage bad? Stu, you said yes. Is that your answer? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. But I don't know if it was deliberate or not though, because it has to be. It has to be deliberate because you can't be that. He's obviously been hired for the. I mean, this was after Raising Arizona, so you've already seen what he's capable of. He's obviously been hired for that reason. So, like we've done before, like we said a few weeks ago, who would you put in Primal from the? You can't see anyone else doing this, putting this performance in at all
for a very good reason.
Yeah. So for that reason alone, yes, he was, because he's irreplaceable.
Matt, what do you think?
I believe that it's intentional. I believe he's doing it for a reason, but it's a case of we stopped asking the questions, can we? And we should be asking the questions, should we? Do you know what I mean? I've got to say no. Can you imagine if this was the only Nick Cage film you'd ever seen? You'd think, fucking hell, this guy is absolutely abysmal. We know through hindsight and how, he can take on roles and do all sorts of things. But if this was the sole film, which is the question, you think he was the worst actor in history. So it's got to be a no for me, unfortunately.
I'm really torn on this.
And the fact that you are really torn says everything about it.
It does, doesn't it? Because I don't think Nick Cage is acting in this film. I think he thinks it's a complete different movie. Like, he's putting in a really good comedic performance in a film about mental health episodes and vampires. Like, it doesn't compute. I honestly, I don't think I've struggled on this question as much with any other film that we've watched. I think the reason I'm going to say yes, I think he's good in this film, it goes back to our conversation with our good friend David Nell, when he spoke about Nick Cage makes decisions in every role. Like, everything he does is for a purpose. And I will find out what the purpose of this performance is one day. It just isn't today. So I'm going to say yes, he was good, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that there's a reason behind the madness in this film. But I may change it at a later date. I'm not convinced. So I need you to finish the sentence. If you enjoyed Vampire's Kiss, you might also like. Matt?
I don't know about enjoy, but you should watch Let the Right One In, the Swedish coming-of-age vampire story. By coming of age, that's not to say it's particularly sweet or it's anything like super bad or anything like that, but it's a vampire tale that isn't. It's just quite original and fresh, and because it's Swedish, subtitled. I think it's dubbed as well. I never watched a dubbed version. I'd watched a subtitled version. It's just the tone of it is very, very different. It's sweet and sour, I guess you could say. Like, it's brutal and beautiful all at the same time, and it's just a vampire story that isn't, trench coats and Blade or Twilight or anything like that. It's just a sweet story and an also brutal story, like just about kids and the troubles that kids go through, and the fact that one of them's a vampire as well. Like, it's sweet at heart, but it's also not. I just don't know how to describe it. I mean, even the American adaptation is good, but watch it as intended and watch the Swedish original plot one first.
Stu?
I mean, when I didn't calm down afterwards, when I could see again through the salty tears of joy, This was two films mashed together, and one you've already mentioned was American Psycho, obviously because that must have had influences. It must have been influenced by this. But the other one was Dracula Dead and Loving It, which is as mental a vampire film as you're going to get. And I think if you put them two films together, this is what you come out with.
Mm-hmm. It's the love child, isn't it?
Yeah, I get that completely. Yeah. My answer is The Boys from County Hell, which is a vampire comedy film set in Ireland. It's a crew of hardy road workers led in by this bickering father and son, and they need to survive the night when they accidentally awaken this ancient Irish vampire that's been buried on their plot of land. It's really ridiculous, but like there's enough gore in it that you actually like fear for stuff, but it's really quite funny. I think if you liked Derry Girls, you'll recognise a couple of the faces in it. The girl who plays Orla is in this movie. She's excellent. And there's also John Lynch, which is another face you'd probably recognise from Irish independent cinema. It's a really wonderful horror comedy. And like so often when you get films from the British Isle and Ireland, they compare it to Shaun of the Dead, and it honestly doesn't deserve that recognition. But this one probably does, actually. It's a small budget film. It's kind of scary and it's really funny. And that's more than can be said for most horror comedies. It's really worth your investment. I do like an Irish independent film for some reason. So, yeah, Boys from County Hell. It's on Shudder, which I haven't mentioned for a while. But I'd definitely say check that one out.
Yeah, those Shudder checks haven't been coming through the post.
They have not. They need to step up their game. So that's another Nick Cage film recorded in the record books. If you've seen this one or any of the films, get in contact, cagefightingpod@gmail.com or on the Twitter or Instagram @cagefightingpod. Please make sure that you're subscribed and that you're following us on whatever podcast it is that you're using. And thank you for giving us your time this week. We really do appreciate it. So for this week, Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, everybody. And remember, if you are going to buy some fake teeth, invest in some ceramic ones. Come on.
Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
I'm a vampire. Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. And remember, dream of me, my angel.